Hare Krishna, everyone. So today we are going to start chapter 2, that is Sankhya Yoga. And their total, it's called Contents of Gitas. This is actually summary of Gita. If you have read chapter 2 very well, then that's actually the summary of Gita. So there are total 72 shlokas in this. 63 of them have been spoken by Krishna and 6 by Arjuna, 3 by Sanjaya. So let's see what it is. And before that, we must pay our obeisances to Shri Shri Radha Govinda. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. And there is chapter 1. What did we learn? Section A, we had introduction, preparation for the war. And section B, Arjuna had so many doubts which Krishna was going to clear. So what did we see? In summary, if you see, there was Arjuna's reasons for not wishing to fight. Can anyone remember any of the wishes that he didn't want to fight? Any reason that he was giving? Anyone who can remember? You can unmute yourself. Hare Krishna, you're in level 2 now. You should be knowing this.
Multiple session and due to sinful reaction and because of some family traditions and no enjoyment.
Correct.
And
Very
was
good.
not able to form a decision.
Yes, yes, yes. Now that you are in level 2, you must try and do a lot of interaction work has to be done, and strictly everybody has to attend the classes. Otherwise, you will not be valid and you will not be promoted to level 3. So you have to be here in class and you have to be more interactive now, because level 3 and level 4, you'll have to do presentations, you have to talk, you have to interact. So you have to start doing that. So in chapter 2.6, the indecision thing that Arjuna was having is covered in chapter 2. And then Arjuna surrenders to Lord Krishna in chapter 2. And he says, you are my guru, please help me. And then Lord Krishna reveals the transcendental knowledge, right? Now in chapter 2, we are going to have A, B, C, D sections. We will cover A and B today, C, D, E tomorrow. Section A, 2.1 to 2.10, Arjuna had a lot of doubts and he surrendered to Lord Krishna in these 10 shlokas. And 11 to 30, Krishna is going to give some knowledge and is going to say, no, you have to get up, uttishta, fight. There is no death for the soul, so don't worry about that. So that is what Krishna is going to tell. So Arjuna says, I'm not able to cope up with the current situation. You know, I have to kill the elders and teachers, and I just cannot take part in this battle. And he says, Krishna, you are my spiritual teacher. I just bow, I surrender. And then Lord starts imparting his knowledge divine knowledge to Arjuna. And he begins with immortal nature of the soul, which is eternal, it is imperishable, and death will destroy only the body, and the soul will continue its journey. He's giving all that knowledge to him. How, like a person who is going to discard his old clothes, right? And then he wears new clothes, does not mean that we change ourselves, right? So soul also keeps changing the body, but soul doesn't change. Soul remains, it is eternal. The Lord reminds Arjuna that it is a social responsibility that as he's a Kshatriya and he's a warrior, he's supposed to fight. And he explains that you have to do it, because otherwise what will happen is people will talk about you and it will be really, humiliating, and it will be infamy to you. And he tries to motivate Arjuna also. So let's see how he does that. So 2.1 to 10, after Arjuna continues to express his doubts about fighting, he surrenders to Krishna for instruction. Sanjaya uvacha tam tatha kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantamidam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Any volunteers who will read the English translation? Hare Krishna.
Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind refreshed, his eye full of tears. Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words.
Your
Sanjay is
Nikash Prabhuji, your voice is very low. It's not very. Am I the only one, or is it not audible to others? Can you please tell?
Not audible, Mataji.
Yeah, it's not audible. Nikash Prabhuji, you have to either speak very loudly or.
Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind refreshed, his eyes full of tears. Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words. Sanjay said, Krishna seeing Arjuna lamenting like an ignorant man and response.
Yeah, but Nikash Prabhuji, just make sure that you're closer to your mic because it isn't clear at all. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears. Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words. Now, this is Sanjaya describing, right? He's telling Krishna is looking at Arjuna, who has been lamenting like an ignorant person, and then he's going to answer. So, what is Sanjaya using? He is using the word kripaya, means compassion, pity. So, compassion usually are of two kinds, right? One is divine compassion that God or saints they have towards souls who are living in this material nature, like people, humans like us, and because they see that we are suffering, we are separated from God and we are suffering, so they feel compassionate towards us. And the other kind is material compassion, like we have, right? When we see somebody suffering in this material world, and we say, "Oh, poor guy or poor girl." So that kind of compassion. So material compassion is a noble sentiment, but it is not perfect. It is not perfectly directed as such. It is like, we are being obsessed by the health of the car, for example. Oh, the car is, it has to be perfect. It has to be clean. It has to be this. But we are not bothered about the driver who is sitting inside, and maybe he is very, very hungry also. We are not even looking after the driver. We are looking at the health of the car outside. We need to do this. We need to do this to the car. That is how we are talking about. So Arjuna is experiencing kind of second type of compassion, where he is very much overwhelmed with his material kind of compassion towards his relatives, towards his enemies who have gathered on the field. And who are they? His cousins, his teachers, his grandfather, right? He's completely overwhelmed and overcome by grief. And he himself, I think, needs compassion right now. So, in this verse, Krishna has been addressed like what? Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. He has been addressed as Madhusudana. Madhusudana means he has killed the demon called Madhu. That is why he has been named Madhusudana. But here there is another meaning to it, that he is about to slay the demon of doubts that are arising in Arjuna's mind also. And it is preventing Arjuna from doing his duty. So that is what Sanjaya describes. So we can see here, right? Self-realization is having compassion for the soul, but no, but if you are in ignorance, you will have material compassion and you will be lamenting and you will have tears. So self-realization is study of soul is different from body. That is what is being explained by Lord Krishna. And as person puts on garments, like you give up old clothes, soul similarly, it also accepts the new material bodies and it gives up the old and useless ones. If a person is drowning, what are you going to hold? Are you going to hold his clothes and pull it out? Or are you going to actually save that person, the man, the body? Similarly, so same way we should save the soul. Soul has to be saved, right? Not the body. That's the analogy being given, that saving the dress of the drowning man. That is material compassion. Shri Bhagavan Utasva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Jushtamaswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, Nikash Prabhuji, if you can read loudly, then please.
The Supreme Personality of God is said.
Yes.
The Supreme Personality of God is said, dear. The Supreme Personality of God is said, my dear Arjuna, how have fear, this impurity comes upon you. They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planet, to but to infamy. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Nikash Prabhuji, the voice is not coming out loud. Is there any other volunteer who can read? Hare Krishna. Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." So what is Lord Krishna doing here in this? He is kind of reprimanding Arjuna, because Arjuna is in very real confused state. So Bhagavad Gita or the song of God, that is Bhagavad Gita, right? It begins from here, from this shloka, from shloka 2. Because Lord Krishna, who was very, very quiet in chapter 1, didn't speak a word, like a very, very good teacher. He starts speaking from this verse onwards. So he begins like, he wants to induce in Arjuna a hunger for what? For knowledge. He wants him to gain some knowledge about this, because he's lamenting a lot. So how does he do that? He's doing that by pointing out that his state of confusion that Arjuna is, it is not good. It is dishonorable. And it is not at all appropriate for virtuous person like Arjuna. Then he goes on to remind Arjuna. He says that, do you know the consequences, the result of having delusion? The kind of delusion you are having, it will be painful. It will be infamy, failure in life. What will people call you? And it is also degradation of soul, because you're not performing your duty, right? That's what Krishna told him. Sometimes, what happens in real life also, if you notice, God deliberately, what he does, he puts a person in turmoil, some problem. And we are forced to search for knowledge. Why? Because we want to remove that confusion. So we start looking around for solution, for knowledge. And when the doubt is finally resolved, what happens? We reach a better level of understanding. Oh, okay, this is what God wanted from me. And then we understand. So we must understand that we lose the ability to discriminate between right and wrong. When do we have failed to do this? When we become very attached to something. You will understand that, oh my God, I'm being so attached to it. When you're attached to something, you lose your discrimination about what is right and wrong, like what Arjuna is going through right now. He's so attached to his relatives, he's not able to clear up his mind. Klebhyam mam smagamav partha naitattvayupapadyate kshutra hridaya dorbalyam tyaktvotishtha parantapa. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of enemy. Now, Klebhyam means what? Weakness. He's having a lot of weakness now. He's feeling very weak, because he's seeing his guru, he's seeing his teacher right in front of him, right? So Lord Krishna, I tell you, he's a skillful teacher. He has reprimanded Arjuna in the first line. If you see, Klebhyam mam, why are you so weak? Then in the second line, then he is motivating and boosting Arjuna's internal strength also. That is the quality of a teacher. So that, Arjuna can tackle his situation. And how is he doing? He is addressing Arjuna as, son of Pritha. Who is Pritha? That is another name for Kunti Devi. So Lord Krishna is asking him to remember his mother Kunti. What did she do? She worshipped Indra. He is the chief of heavenly god, celestial god. And with his blessings, Arjuna was born. So what was Arjuna endowed with? Wow, he was endowed with extraordinary might and valor, that similar to what Lord Indra has, right? So Lord Krishna is reminding him, remember this, and he's encouraging him. See, you have to understand, don't unnecessarily, spoil the name, family name. It is such an illustrious parentage. Don't be, weak over here. And then again, at the same time, he is saying, addressing Arjuna as Parantapa. Parantapa. Parantapa means what? Conqueror of enemies. So you've conquered so many enemies. Don't be so weak. What is he trying to say? Defeat the enemy that has arisen in your mind also. Let go of that. So what is that enemy? The enemy is like failure to do his duty. He is a kshatriya, so he is supposed to fight, but he is not able to. He's confused now. He's put down his bow and arrow. Arjuna uvacha katham bhishmamaham sankhe dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarhar varisudana. What did Arjuna say? O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I contract with arrows in battle, men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? So when Krishna says, get up and act, Arjuna presents his confusion. He says, Krishna, Bhishma and Dronacharya, they are worthy of respect and adoration. Now, who was Bhishma? Bhishma was a personification of virtues, right? He remained bachelor, he remained a brahmachari to fulfill the vows of his father. It was not easy. On the other hand, Arjuna's teacher, who taught him all the science of warfare, and he mastered the art of archery from him. Then there was Kripacharya, whom Arjuna really respected and honored him and admired him. So Arjuna is very noble-minded. Now he says, these men of high caliber, high merit, they are standing opposite side as enemies. It seems abominable to me, Krishna. He couldn't even in wildest dream think of arguing with such elderly people. So, because he thought it was improper to argue with older people, right? He respects them. Then how could he ever think of attacking them with weapons? That's what is coming to his mind. He says, oh Krishna, please don't doubt my courage. I have a lot of courage. I'm prepared to fight. But just think from my perspective, what about my moral duty? My duty is to respect my teacher. It is to show compassion to the sons of Dhritarashtra. So I don't know whether you would have thought the same way or not. Will your thought process be the same? Like Arjuna, we need to think. Guru nahatva hi mahanubhavan shreyo bhoktum bhaikshamapi haloke hatvarta kamastu guru nihaiva bhunjiya bhogan rudira pradigdhan. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gains, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Arjuna continues now. He says, I prefer begging. I don't know. I just don't want to commit such kind of heinous sin. And he says that he doesn't want to indulge in this fighting also, the war and killing elders, relatives, cousins, because his conscience is not allowing him, he says, what will I enjoy? Even if I win, suppose I win, what will I enjoy? Will I enjoy the fruits of this action in this world? This riches, this power? That is the question he is having. Na chaitadvitmah kataranno gariyah yadva jayema yadi vano jayeyuh yane vahatva na jijivishama devastita pramukhe dhartarashtra. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield, says Arjuna. He's debating now. He's having a debate now, whether it is desirable to defeat them or be defeated by them. He's having this question in mind. Both alternatives seems like a losing-losing, no win-win, all lose-lose he feels. Because if he did win the war by killing them, he said, I won't have the desire to live anymore. What will I enjoy? But anyway, the fact remains, right, that the Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, they had acted immorally in the court by taking the side of unrighteous Kauravas. They were very quiet during disrobing of Draupadi also. So they are not in the right side. No dharma that side, that time. Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhavaha prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetah yachreyasya nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam. What did Arjuna say? Arjuna said, now I'm confused about my duty. I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Now he's Karpanya. It's a very, very important shloka here. Karpanya dosho means his miserliness. He is having that weakness. He's afflicted by that weakness. And he's saying, Prichamitva, I'm asking you, Krishna, Dharma Sammudha Cheta. I am just bewildered with this Dharma. Yashreya. I'm just thinking, what is good? Nishchitam Bruhi, please for certain, just tell me. I don't understand because Shishya Steham, I'm your Shishya now. Shadi Mam Tuam Prapannam, I'm surrendered to you. Prapannam, I'm surrendered completely to you, says. So this is a great moment in Bhagavad Gita because for the first time, Arjuna, who was Lord Krishna's friend and his cousin also, obviously, he's requesting him to be his guru now. He is completely pleading now, begging Krishna. He's pleading Krishna that he is completely overpowered by Karpanya dosha. So what is Karpanya dosha means? Cowardice. Cowardice means being coward. In what? In behavior. So he's requesting, Lord, become my guru, please, and please show me the correct path. And then even sometimes, even the most elevated spiritual aspirants can cross this, whatever this material ocean we are facing nowadays. They cannot cross even the superior souls without the grace of Guru. So now Arjuna is asking Krishna to become his guru, right? Even Krishna stated in chapter 4 also that you must approach a spiritual master. You must ask with humility and then he can guide you, right? What was that shloka? Tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. He says that you have to find a spiritual guru. So same way Arjuna is forgetting his duty. He is a Kshatriya. So he is admitting, yes, I am Karpanya dosho now because his swabhav, his characteristics is completely like a miser, How it is, he's saying, I'm forgetting, Srila Prabhupada told in one of his lectures that to become a disciple means what? No more argument. When we talk like in a friendly manner, we can argue, we can counter argue, but the moment there is guru and shishya relationship, there is no more argument. So Arjuna is saying that he is Karpanya dosho pahata swabhava. Actually, what he means is my behavior should be exactly like a Kshatriya, like to fight for the just cause, right? But in this case, he is denying, he just doesn't want to fight. So he's a Kripana. Kripana means what? One who does not properly use his position. He's a Kshatriya, he should use his position as a Kshatriya, but he doesn't want to. Like for example, if somebody is very rich, he's got the money right in front of him, he's looking at the money, he's not using it. So what's the point? So he's a Kshatriya, he's not using his skills. He's got the strength, he's got the ability, he's not using his ability. So what is that strength for? Just like if you fall sick, for example, we go to a doctor, right? And we tell him our sickness. Say, please, doctor, please tell us what to do. I'm now suffering with so-and-so disease. That is our duty. Similarly, when we are having some confusion in our duties, even in real life, what should we do? And when we forget our duty, it is very nice to go to a superior person, somebody who is like a guru, somebody who is a senior to you, and ask him what to do. Now, in this case, who can be a superior person, more better person than Krishna? So therefore, Arjuna is saying, Prichamitva means I'm asking you, Krishna, because it's my duty. I'm falling in my duty. So it is faulty. It is not good. I know that. So I want to seek your help, Krishna. And Arjuna surrenders. He's realizing he's being very weak. So he's taking the shelter of Bhagavan. And then the relationship from this verse changes. And knowledge is going to be transferred by Krishna. So what did we learn from 5 to 7? Arjuna continues to give reasons for not fighting, right? And he finally surrenders. Kripanas, they are not interested and they are attached to material activities, right? What happens? It becomes a source of confusion. So what should we do then? We should surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. So who is better than Krishna? Says Arjuna. So he is not interested in self-realization. Nahi prapashyami mama punedyat yachokamuchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhuma vasapatnam riddham rajyam suranam apichadhipatyam I can find no means to drive away this grief, which is drying up my senses. Krishna, I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like demigods in heaven. Oh my God. When we are flooded with misery, the intellect keeps analyzing what is the cause of misery. And when it is not able to think, suddenly all the unhappiness, everything sets in. So Arjuna's problem is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, is becoming weaker and weaker now. So any amount of knowledge is not sufficient anymore to save him from the kind of ocean of grief that he's facing right now. He is completely in grief. Now that he has accepted Krishna as his guru, so he's pouring out his art to Krishna. Krishna, please. He is revealing his miserable state now. And his Arjuna's state is not unique as such, you know. We also many times we can relate to it, right? There are so many situations we sometimes find ourselves in when we go through this journey of life. We desire knowledge, we are not able to get it, we are completely shrouded or clouded by ignorance. We crave for perfect love, we end up in disappointment. With any amount of college degrees, scholarships, knowledge, nothing is going to provide any solution to these confusions in life. What do we need? We need divine knowledge to solve the puzzle of life. So that the treasure chest of this divine knowledge is opened. When is it opened, you know? When we find a true guru, one who is already situated in that divine existence. Again, there is a condition, okay? Everything has condition over there. And condition here is you need to have humility to learn from him. Humbleness is very important on the path that Arjuna is going to walk now. He has decided to take that path. Sanjaya uvacha eva muktva hrishikesham gudakesha parantapaha nayotse iti govindam uktva tushnim babuvaha. Sanjaya said, having spoken this, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight. And he fell silent. So just see how Sanjay is telling also. He is very, very wise that way. He is narrating it to Dhritarashtra, right? So he's using very, very nice, apt names for personalities. Like, for example, for Arjuna, he has used Gudakesha. What is Gudakesha? It means conqueror of sleep. In the power of sleep is such that, you know, we all succumb to it. If we are getting that sleep, we can't stay awake. But Arjuna had disciplined himself in such a way that sleep would come to him only when he permitted it, and only for the amount of time he chose. He was that strong and determined, you imagine. And by using the name Gudakesha for Arjuna, in a way, you know, Sanjay, as I told you, very wise. He's kind of subtly giving hint to Dhritarashtra. Just as this hero amongst this men, he has conquered sleep. Soon he is going to conquer over sadness and grief also. You see, wait. And the word that he used for Krishna here is Hrishikesham. Eva Muktva Hrishikesham. Hrishikesham means he's a controller of mind and senses. Another subtle hint he's throwing at Dhritarashtra. What is he doing that? He's saying, you know, the master of senses, Krishna, he will definitely ensure that, you know, whatever events are going to happen, he will manage it properly. He will be able to do it. Now, that hint he's throwing at Dhritarashtra. Tamuvacha Hrishikeshaha prahasanniva bharata senayorubayor madhye vishidantamidam vachaha. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to grief-stricken Arjuna. The Arjuna is grief-stricken completely. And in sharp contrast to Arjuna's lamentation, Krishna is smiling. Nothing is making him feel gloomy. He's perfectly happy in whatever state he is in. That is what happens when you are in complete knowledge. You exhibit equanimous attitude, you know, like how Krishna is showing here. We humans, we have incomplete understanding. So we keep finding faults in whatever situation we are in. We are always complaining and grumbling about everything, right? We want to wish we are running away from everything, and we hold everyone and anyone responsible for our misery. But if you are an enlightened soul, They tell us, enlightened souls, that world was created by God. It is perfect in every way. And both good and bad situations come to us. There is a reason behind it. There is a divine purpose behind it. They are all arranged for our spiritual elevation so that we move towards the journey. They give us purposely so that we move towards the journey, towards perfection. And whoever understands that secret, he will never face this. He is never disturbed in even most difficult situations also, because he understands this. God has sent this to me. Okay, I need to look into this. And that means he is asking me to progress further. So a difficult decision-making situation, definitely consult a superior authority like Krishna. Now 2.11 to 2.30, we have moved to section B, Jnana. Krishna is going to give him knowledge. Fight. There is no death for the soul, he says. So let's see. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Ashochananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasumscha Nanushocanti Panditaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So this is a dramatic opening statement by Krishna here. Krishna says, Arjuna, you may feel that you're speaking words of wisdom, but sorry, you're actually speaking out of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada also explains very nicely in his purport. He says that, Lord Krishna at once took the position of a teacher and started chastising the student. Lord is telling, like, you look like a learned man, but I thought that you should know that one who knows that what is body, what is soul, and he should not be lamenting at any stage of the body, neither in the living or dead condition. Don't lament for that. I thought you're a learned person, but you don't seem to be. Lord Krishna, taking the role of a spiritual master, chastises Arjuna. How? So Krishna is chastising Arjuna, talking like a learned man. He says to Arjuna, but he's a fool spiritually. Who is a learned man? A learned man is one who can differentiate between matter and spirit. And then Krishna is controller of both. A learned man knows the difference between body and soul. Body is temporary, soul is eternal. He does not lament for the body, whether it's dead or living. Body is born and it is destined to vanquish, means finish. Therefore, body is not important, but soul. So learned man differentiates between eternal soul and temporary body. So that was 11th. Verse 12 now. Natve vaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayamatav param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any one of us cease to be, says Krishna. How does he begin? He begins by explaining that the entity that we call self is really soul. It's not material body, right? And this soul is eternal, just as God himself is eternal. So if we believe that soul is eternal, then it follows quite logical, right? It's very logical. Then there is life after death. If soul is eternal, soul is not dead, then that there is life after death of this material body. So Lord Krishna is going to talk about this in next verse. Dehino svinyatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. This is jnana, knowledge of soul. As embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. You can see how it is moving slowly from young age to old, and then we are finished. We are dead, and then again we are born, and again we go, right? So he's showing how continuously the soul passes on. So Lord Krishna is talking about the principle of transmigration of the soul from lifetime to lifetime. And in this verse, he's saying Dehi. Deha means, what is Deha? Deha means body. And Dehinosmin. Dehi means the possessor of the body. That means soul. So Lord Krishna is trying to draw Arjuna's attention to the fact that body is constantly changing in one lifetime itself, right? From baby to boyhood to youth to old age. In one lifetime itself, you can see so much of change. Similarly, he says, at the time of death, soul passes on to another body. So what we actually term death means what? It means soul is discarding the old dysfunctional body. And what we call birth is soul taking a new body elsewhere. That is it. That is the principle of reincarnation. So Arjuna stated, I'm feeling very compassionate. He gave that reason, right, to decline fighting. What was Krishna's reply? Krishna is answering to Arjuna that he gave him that knowledge by saying that we are souls, not bodies. So you don't need to have that compassion. Anyway, everybody is going to die. And soul is eternal. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama payino nityaha tamsitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, their disappearance in due course, are like appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So we have these five senses, right? Sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing, right? And when it comes in contact with the objects of perception, what happens? We start getting this sensation of happiness. We'll see something. Oh, wow, so beautiful. We are very happy. Oh, that happened. Oh my God. And we are distant. So we are, because of our senses, we sometimes are happy, sometimes we are sorrowful and distressed. None of these sensations are permanent. We have to understand that. They come and go like changing seasons, Krishna says. Although you can see in the picture, cool water provides pleasure in the summer when we have cool water, right? As soon as the same cool water in winter will give us distress. Oh, cold in summer. Wow. Same cold water. So the senses are, very temporary, they're short-lived. If we allow them to affect us, then we'll sway like a pendulum in the screen that you can see, as the person in the picture is swaying from happiness to distress, from happiness to distress, So that is what is going to happen. That's what Krishna is explaining. Yam hina vyatayante te purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So in previous verse, what happened? Lord Krishna explained, right, that both sensations of happiness and distress, they are all temporary. He's now encouraging Arjuna. What is he saying? You have to rise above these dualities of happiness, sorrow, and all that. Through what? Through discrimination between what is right and wrong. You have to try to discriminate now. And how to develop this discrimination? You need to understand two important questions. Why do we actually aspire for happiness? Why? What for? And why doesn't material happiness satisfy us? We are never satisfied. We get this happiness. Okay, for a while we are happy. Then again we want something. Again we are hankering for happiness. So why? So the answer to that first question, that why we aspire for happiness, is simple. God is ocean of infinite bliss and happiness. And who are we? We souls are his part and parcels of God. If God is infinite happiness, so we will be having that aspire for happiness. So what does it basically mean? We are tiny fragments of that infinite ocean of bliss, right? Happiness. So that answers our first question. If he is infinite bliss, God, and we are his part and parcel, so we also are, getting that, wanting that bliss. Second question is the soul. The soul is a tiny part of God, and God, it is divine in nature, like God himself. So happiness, the happiness that the soul is seeking, is also divine. So such happiness must possess what? It should have three characteristics if we are trying to be divine. If we are divine, then it must be infinite, it must be permanent, and it must be ever fresh. But such is happiness of God. He is Satchit Ananda. That is God's definition, right? He is eternal. But happiness that we are experiencing with the contact of our senses, sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad. It's the reverse. It's temporary, the happiness that we get. And it is finite and it insentient, right? So the material happiness that we are getting through this body will never satisfy the soul, because soul is divine. What we are through our senses are experiencing is all temporary. For a moment we are happy, then again we are sad. So with this discrimination, we must learn to tolerate both happiness and distress. We should try to remain equipoised, right? Whenever we are having this, that is what is being explained in Bhagavad Gita. The moment we understand that point, we are out of this. Nasato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubayorapi drishtontaha, tanayo tatsvadarshibhihi. Those who are seers of truth have concluded that of the non-existence material body, there is no endurance, and of the soul, there is no change. This have been concluded by studying the nature of both. So Lord Krishna is explaining here that world does exist, but it is fleeting, moving. So thus he is calling it asat or temporary. He is not calling it mithya. He is not saying that it is not existing. He says, yes, it is temporary. This whole world is temporary, but it is not illusionary. It's not that it is non-existence. That's what Krishna is trying to say. There is material world, but it's a temporary material world. अविनाशि तु तद्विद्धि येन सर्वमिदं ततं विनाशमव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति. That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Soul cannot be destroyed. He is repeating that again and again. So he is establishing the relationship. Why he is repeating everything, Krishna? Because we are mood buddhi. Everything doesn't go in one time. So keep on telling, then maybe we will understand things, Krishna. So Lord Krishna here is establishing the relationship between body and soul. What is he saying? The soul pervades the body. Soul is sentient. It has a feeling. It possesses consciousness. Body, it is made up of matter. It does not have any consciousness, right? So when soul goes into this body, that's when the consciousness rises. For example, the flower, if you see, fragrance is the quality of the flower. If in the garden there are nice flowers growing, so the fragrance doesn't remain limited to flower itself. It goes around in the garden. Similarly, the soul moves into the body. It gives consciousness to the whole body. Like the flower is giving fragrance to the whole garden. It's not having within itself. That's the analogy that's given. So that's the soul that gives life to the body. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashino prameyasya tasmadyutyasva bharata. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight. Every time he's saying fight. So the material body, he says, is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately. It may do so after 100 years. You never know. It's just a question of time. So there is no chance of maintaining it. Oh, I'm going to live forever. No, that's not going to happen. So as soon as the spirit soul is gone out of the material body, the body begins to decompose, right? So therefore, it is the spirit soul that is maintaining the body. Body is not important. That's what Krishna is trying to inform Arjuna. That is why he's advising Arjuna, fight. Sacrifice this body. This body is nothing. Don't try to give importance to this body, says Krishna. Ya evam veti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanitaha nayam hanti na hanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in the knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. Very is kind of putting it in rhyme also. So it's the illusion of death. Why is it created? Because we identify ourselves with the body. For example, if we are sleeping and we are dreaming the head is cut off, the pain still lingers after we get up also. That pain is still there. Oh, my head was cut. It was actually illusion, but that pain continues to torment even once we get up. Similarly, in the illusion that we are the body, we start fearing the experience of death. Oh my God, how death will be. We are very scared of death. So, but the soul who is really enlightened, who's not in any illusion, he doesn't scare. He's not scared of death at all. It vanishes. So we may ask, like we may get this question that if no one can kill anyone, then why murder is considered punishable offense? That's the question that comes to the mind. Answer it that the body is the vehicle of the soul, and destroying any living being's vehicle, it is violence, which is forbidden. Vedas, it is written in the Vedas. What was that? Ma hinsyat sarva bhutani means do not commit violence towards anyone. That is written in Vedas. So Lord Krishna is explaining to Arjuna in great detail as the whole Bhagavad Gita dialogues are going to go on. He is going to explain this in detail. Jayate mriyate va kadachit नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यशाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come in being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So he's talking about eternal soul, right? So body is subjected to 6 types of transformation also. What are those? He's born, he's in the womb, right? Then birth takes place, he's growing, and then he's having babies, then slowly he's going older, and then he dies. These are the transformations of the body, but not of the soul. So when what we call death, Krishna says, it's just the destruction of the body. But the soul, the immortal soul, it remains unaffected by bodily changes. Anything that changes in the body, soul has no problem. Why? Soul is unborn. It is glorious. It is unchanging. It is deathless. It is free from old age. It is immortal. It is fearless. That's what Krishna is explaining. You can see for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being. His soul is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. And soul cannot be slain when the body is slain. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajam avyayam katham sapurusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. How can a person who knows that soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So what a spiritual elevated soul, if he defeats the ego, we have the ego, right? The elevated soul defeats the ego, because then otherwise you will start thinking you are the doer of the action. Arjuna is thinking that he is doing everything, right? So elevated soul can see that it is the soul, soul is sitting inside and it's not doing anything. And he is trying to understand that even though I'm doing so many actions, soul is not getting contaminated. That is the elevated soul thinking. So even immediately Lord Krishna is advising Arjuna, elevate yourself, get to that enlightened level. You have to understand you are the non-doer. You are not doing anything. Just perform your duty. Don't shirk your responsibility as a Kshatriya, says Krishna. Vamsamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani granati naropana parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sanyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. It's very clear, right? When garments have become torn and useless, what do? We throw them, we discard them. We buy new ones or we wear new ones, right? We don't change ourselves for that. So in the same manner, soul also remains unchanged. So when the body is outgrown, it's gone, it's useless now, it goes into another body. So Arjuna is advised by Lord Krishna here, don't lament for the bodily changes, because old grandfather and teacher, you should be happy. Once they're killed, this old body, they will get rid of this old body. They'll go into a new body. So don't worry about this body thing here. Just do your duty, and just there is no cause for your lamentation, Arjuna. You have to understand this, says Krishna. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapaha, na shoshayati marutaha. Soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, burnt by fire, moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Any kind of weapon, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, you name it, they will not be able to kill the soul. Why? There's so many weapons in this, right? Modern weapons have come, even nuclear weapons have come. Everything have been classified as fire weapons, this weapon, that weapon. But nothing, no weapon can kill the soul, says Krishna. Modern scientists, they have knowledge of tornado weapons also. But soul cannot be cut into pieces, nor can it be annihilated by any weapons, right? Srila Prabhupada says in one of his lectures that I heard, that there is a distinction of the soul being spirit. How? You take anything in this material world, you can try to burn it, it will be burnt, right? It's only the question of temperature, how heated it should be. Like if you take iron, it can be burnt. You can take any metal, any hard thing, just a question of temperature that it can be burnt. But here it is said, soul cannot be burnt. So what does it mean? It is stronger than iron, stone, or anything. Even though it is fragmental, minute, atomic particle, still it cannot be burned. So we cannot escape our miseries or by destroying our bodies. Bodies will be destroyed, but if we have done something wrong, it is going with our soul. So we can't escape that. Achedyo yamadahyoyam kledo shoshayevacha nitya sarvagatabsthanuho achaloyam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be burned, dried, is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. Same thing. So point about immortality again is being, driven home here by Krishna. As I told you, Krishna keeps on repeating it so that it goes into our mudha buddhi. So after the liberation from this material contamination, the soul, it may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of Krishna, or, there are some intelligent souls, they want to enter into the spiritual planets to spend time with Krishna. So for the teacher to just give knowledge, perfect knowledge, that is not enough. Knowledge has to be useful also. And it must sink into the heart of the student. We should understand it completely. So skillful teacher like Lord Krishna has repeated the point previously. Like previously also he made in Bhagavad Gita, he was stressing the important spiritual principles. Why? He wants to ensure that it has been grasped by his disciple Arjuna properly. Avyakto yamachintyo yam avikaryo yamuchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochanti marhasi. This said the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So our eyes are made from material stuff, right? Material energy. So we can see material objects. Soul is divine. We don't have that kind of divine eyes. For material objects, material eyes. Divine soul, divine eyes. We don't have it. So we cannot see. Because we cannot see, we think it doesn't exist. So it is subtler than material energy. So soul is inconceivable to our intellect because we cannot see. We think that, oh, it's not there. The soul is so small, it cannot be seen even by the powerful microscope also. And as far as soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish its existence. You cannot experimentally say that, okay, I have seen the soul. No, only the proof is Shruti, that we have heard from Vedic scriptures, and we have to accept that truth because Krishna is telling us. So there's so many things. We accept solely on the grounds of superior authority. Okay, Guru has told, yes, it is there. Or Vedas have told, yes, it is there. No one can deny the existence of Father, right? Because based on the evidence mother is giving. As a result, knowledge of the soul, it requires external sources because we don't know, we cannot see. So what are those external sources? Those are scriptures and whatever our guru tells us. So see more characteristics. It is unbreakable, insoluble, neither burned nor dried, everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same, invisible, inconceivable, cannot be seen by eyes, immutable. It is not changeable. It's unable to make changes. It's eternal soul. अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि. If however you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty arm. Lord Krishna is using the word atha chainam. He's indicating, Arjuna may want to believe the other explanations about the nature of soul. There is a Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist school of thinking also. They think that Atma, this so-called soul, it vanishes along with when the body is destroyed. In any case, even if Arjuna accepts that also, what is the conclusion? That there is an atomic soul. If he does not believe in also, still he does not have any reason to lament. Okay, soul is not there. Okay, fine. Then also you should not lament. If there is no rebirth to the soul, Arjuna has no need to be afraid for killing anybody. There will be no sinful reaction, right? Due to killing his grandfather, because there is no rebirth to the soul in case. So what is there to lament, says Krishna. This is now going to be explained. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharyethe natvam shochitum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die. And after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Krishna is again telling. In English language, we have this idiom, as sure as death, we say. So the most certain thing in life that I know is we will meet with death one day. That is for sure. That one thing I'm sure about. So psychologists also, they categorize this fear of death as the biggest fear in life people have. That's what they have told. But for one who has taken birth, death is inevitable. You can't avoid it. And when something is inevitable, then why cry? Why lament over it, right? So that's what Krishna is telling. There's a nice story about Yudhishthira, which I will tell you tomorrow because today there's no much time. I will tell you, remind me about it tomorrow. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in the beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what is the need for lamentation? Every shloka Krishna is trying to say, why are you crying? What is there to lament about? Here he is telling, what is the cause for lamentation in respect to the soul? He's telling, right? And then he's trying to understand that this soul, it is in whole this material realm. Each individual soul is bound by three things. What three bodies? Gross body, subtle body, causal body. Very important to listen. Gross body is made up of 5 gross elements. What are they? Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Subtle body. Subtle body is made up of 18 elements, right? 5 life phase, 5 working senses, 5 knowledge senses. You learned in level 1. And then mind, intellect, and false ego. What is causal body? It consists of what? Karmas that we have done from endless past times. So these are carried forward from previous lives. So what happens at the time of death? The soul leaves the body, the gross body, and it departs with what? 2 things. One is subtle body and one is causal body. It goes with that. Now God gives a life again. It gives the soul another gross body to go into. So what does the soul go into that body with? It goes with that subtle body and causal body. And it sends the soul to a suitable mother's womb so that it can go inside the womb and give birth. Then again, it comes up as a gross body. So there is a transitional phase before it receives a new body. It can be few seconds, it can be years also, we don't know. So Krishna says, before birth, soul existed unmanifest because it's not born. It is there, lying there, unmanifest, hanging like that, with subtle and causal bodies. Then after death, it again exists in unmanifested state. So in the middle, when it takes birth into a body, that's when it is manifested. That's what. So death is no reason to lament, says Krishna. So we can see text 28, that philosophers do not believe in the existence of soul. They are atheists. Some believe in the existence of soul. And those who do not believe, they think that material exists before creation was unmanifested stage. And creation in manifested stage. You can see how. And after the manifested stage, it is died. The soul before creation is hanging like this. After death, hanging like this. In between, when it takes into the body, comes into the body, that's when it is moving. That's what is trying to explain. So ether, body is made up of all these 5 elements, many varieties of creation. Lord Krishna's argument is, what is there to lament? Before death, before it goes into a body, it is hanging like this. After death, it is hanging like this. In between, it is going into the body. So what is there to, feel bad about or lament about, says Krishna. Ashcharyavat pashyati kashchidenam, Ashcharyavat vadati tathaiva chanyah, Ashcharyavat chaina manashrunoti, Shrutvaapyenam veda nachaiva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. Some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Like, there's the galaxy, you can see. There is a tiniest item to largest galaxy. It's so amazing, the wonderful creations of God. Little rose flower is so amazing. Its texture, its color, its beauty. And God himself is amazing. So it is said, I read somewhere that Ananta Shesha, the divine 10,000 headed serpent on whom Lord Vishnu lies down, right, resides. He has been singing glories of God from the beginning of creation and is still not been able to complete it, apparently. So soul is a fragmented part of God. Very, very amazing thing. And it is, of course, transcendental. It's divine, just as God is divine, right? Soul is also divine. So that is what Krishna is trying to explain. So we'll see how it is. Soul is amazing. You see, when you look at it, some look on soul as amazing. Some people who are amazing look on soul. Some look on the soul, which is amazing. Looking is amazing. People are amazing. Soul is amazing. When you hear, you can see. Some hear about amazing soul. Some people who are amazing hear about the soul. So here is amazing. People are amazing, and soul is also amazing. You can see while describing also. Describing people are amazing, and even soul is amazing when you are describing it also. You can see soul, same size. It's so amazing. Soul is of same size, but in different bodies, you see. In elephant and in trees and in small babies, in dust particle. Same soul. The size of the soul is same, but it's amazing. It goes into different bodies. Dehi nityamavadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitumarhasi. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Again, he is explaining. He is concluding the chapter of instruction now about the soul, immutable soul. What is he describing about immutable soul? He is telling in various ways. Lord Krishna is trying to establish that the soul is immortal, Arjuna. Body is temporary. He is just driving home the point so that it goes inside Arjuna's brain that Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He should not abandon his duty out of fear, out of compassion, or out of fear that his grandfather or teacher Bhishma and Dronacharya will die in the battle. He should not fear that. So Lord Krishna is telling that we have to believe that soul is different from the body. Don't think there is no such thing as soul, that living symptoms develop at certain stage of material maturity because of the interaction of some chemicals, and then it is born. Don't get into that this thing, because we have heard it from Vedas. Soul is immortal, right? Violence cannot be encouraged, but at the time of war, it is the need of the time. So that time, violence is not discouraged. You have to fight. It's actual need When people go to in a Kargil war and on, if soldiers stand over there and say, no, I will not fight, Karpanya dosho that will be their weakness, right? So we have to use the discriminatory power. So here in text 30, there is an analogy of for unnecessary violence is not justified. The soul is immortal, but violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it is discouraged, that it is not discouraged. You can fight, you should fight because you are a warrior. There is an actual need for it. So that need must be justified. How? It has to be justified in terms of being sanctioned by the God, by Lord, not just according to your whims and fancies. Okay, I want to fight, I will fight. No, not like that. So violence is justified only if it is for the supreme justice. You have to keep law and order in the human society. You can't randomly go and start doing violence. So it is said that with the will of God, person carrying out violence should be in knowledge. If you have knowledge and you are doing it, yes, I am in knowledge. I have to fight for my country. You fight. That is knowledge. So example has been given of a judge. He awards capital punishment, for example, if somebody committed murder. So Srila Prabhupada draws this reference from Manu Samhita. He says that, it's advantageous for the murderer, he says. Srila Prabhupada explains that it is advantageous for the murderer to be killed. Why? If he's killed here, he's free from that reaction, all the reactions for his sin. He'll be forgiven at once in his next birth because he is punished over here itself. So also the judge who is giving this sentence, he will not incur any sinful reaction because he is in knowledge. He is sitting there to justify everything. So he won't be having that karma bound to him. Similar analogy is given to surgeons who are performing surgical operations. They are trying to cure the patient, not to kill them. So violence cannot hamper or obstruct the immortality of the soul. That's what Krishna says. Okay, so we have covered section A and B today, and tomorrow we'll cover section C, D, and E. Karmakanda, Buddhi Yoga, and Sthita Prajna. Vanchakalpata Rupasya Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.